And if you're looking for a trellis, here's another weakness of mine, conifers. And I decided on one more plant. I'm going to pick up this fingerleaf regersea. I'm going to have to look this one up. And look at this. I just found another wish list plant. This is Hi, it's Steph, and we're at Briggs in Attleboro, Massachusetts. This is a local nursery that is about 40-45 minutes from where I live. So I don't get here that often, only a couple of times a season. So I'm going to take you along with me and we will see what we can find. This is their indoor garden center, or I would say where they have some of their home items. You can find lots of beautiful planters and pots as well as other home decor items. They have house plants and all kinds of goodies. Look at these cool head planters. I've been after one of these for a long time. I just haven't found one that has like a face shape that I like, but this one's actually really pretty. It's just a little small, which would mean that I would have to water it pretty often unless it was a succulent. But I see that they have this spider plant on the side, and my spider plant has a bunch of spider babies, and that would make a really cool plant to put in a head planter because it would look like it has really wild hair. So here are some more head planters as well as some pots, and it looks like they only have that one size. They are $19.99 if anyone is local and looking for one of these fun planters. Some beautiful wind chimes. And then right here they have these really large birds. They look like they could be cranes for garden decor, but look how pretty. And I looked at the tag. They're actually heron, and they're made out of metal, so they're like a sculpture for the garden. These really look really pretty by, say, like a pond, maybe like a koi pond. Maybe it would deter real birds from coming and trying to eat the fish. If you're into air plants, they have all these cool like air plants as well as accessories like the glass bowls that you can make a little terrarium out of. So that's a lot of fun. These don't need water, they just need air. You can do all kinds of fun things with them. This one is wild. Look at that. It almost looks like a mangave or something, the way it kind of contorts. And this is some, I guess it's air plant food. I've never had an air plant. There's a smaller one here. They almost feel artificial when you touch them. I found some really pretty wind chimes. They're like a porcelain material and they almost look like they're tulips. Very similar in style to like you would see like a rain chain. And they have it in the blue and this pretty pink. Some really pretty wreaths with some straw flower and some eucalyptus. This is beautiful for the fall. Look at that. And get some inspiration from these too. I know that I'm growing celosia and straw flower. These almost look like they could be calendula too, but they're definitely straw flower. And the eucalyptus, very pretty. And then they have these artificial sprays here, and I'm growing something called Craspedia this year that sort of looks like this. It's slightly smaller, but really pretty as well. Some macrame plant hangers. Now I've wanted to put one of these up in my house, but my husband's not keen on drilling holes in the ceiling. But look how cool they are. So pretty. And if you have a specific color scheme when it comes to your pots and planters, here at Briggs, they section off all of their planters by color. So you can go ahead and find something that fits your aesthetic, which is really fun. There's also lots of tools and even some fertilizers. So if there's anything that you're looking for, this is a really great garden center. So if you're local in Massachusetts, definitely check out Briggs. I found this place a couple of seasons ago and I absolutely love it. I wish it were closer so I could get here more often. They have all of the tones, which is one of my favorite fertilizers. And they have some bonide. So they have insect control, fertilizers, repellents, grass seed, and so forth. And we're getting into the fall, which will be a great time to do any kind of grass work that you have to do, overseeding, reseeding, and so forth. Here's something I never noticed before, the Solution Center, Insect, Plant, and Disease. So it looks like there's a person here that you can talk to. There's even a cafe, so if you come hungry or you want a snack, you can grab one while you're here. What's better than that? Snacks and plants. There's such a pretty botanical poster back there, and I've been looking for one for a really long time for my kitchen, so I'm going to have to look around to see if I see any posters. But if you have any gardener friends that you want to gift something to, they have lots of options here. Books, gift cards are always a great one. I had a friend who actually gave me a gift card to this place recently, and that gave me an excuse to come, which was really awesome. Look at this, a puzzle. This is good for the winter time when we can't be outside here in New England in our flower gardens. We can work on some really pretty puzzles. And even birding stuff. Look at this. That's another activity that gardeners like to do over the winter. Look at our bird friends outside. So that's fun. And look at this, the backyard bird song guide. So you can actually press and listen to different bird songs so that you can identify the birds in your garden. That is so cool. And here's something I've been after for quite some time. It's one of these beautiful birdhouses for my garden. So maybe next year I can think about asking for one of these for either my birthday or Mother's Day. But they are gorgeous. These beautiful copper tops, so pretty. These are the types that you would mount on like a post in the middle of a garden bed. I really like these with this rounded roof. And I was just looking at the tag and I noticed that the person who makes these is local. A gentleman by the name of Don LaFrada, and there's a 508 phone number, which means that they are likely here in Massachusetts. Website woodenexpression.com. So that is really cool. They have some with a stainless steel roof, and then these with the black roof, which really matches the aesthetic of a lot of the newer farmhouses that are being built. You have the rounded roof and the traditional roof style as well. And there's a conservatory where all the houseplants are, and it is warm in there today. It's about 85 outside, so I'm guessing this area is probably a bit warmer than that. Really pretty in here. And they still have this water feature that I was able to get here for my birthday a couple of years ago. I have it on my front walkway, and it's really nice when you kind of walk up the front walk to the front door, the sound of water. This is a pretty philodendron. It is Pink Princess. It likes a humid climate, well-drained soil, and it can climb like a vine plant. Doesn't seem like it would be a climber, but I guess it is. It says that the leaves will revert if they don't get enough light. That is really pretty. I tend to really enjoy houseplants in the winter months when I can't be outside gardening. Speaking of which, let's go check out their outside garden center. So we are in the shady spot. So let's see what's under the shade cloths here. See if we can find anything fun and interesting. Some geraniums. This one's Cranesbill Carmina, perennial. Pink blooms. And it looks like it flowers May into June. And it's short, 10 to 12 inches in height and width. Good in zones 5 through 8. I really like geraniums. I have a couple of varieties in my garden. The Roxanne blooms for a really long time. This is probably another variety. Bergarten? Yeah, they have a little bit of a scent too. You can kind of smell it. Here's something that I do have. European ginger. This is a little tough to get to spread. I feel like they spread really slow. And they're great for a kind of moist but well-draining soil in a part shade location. They kind of form these little clumps of what looks like lily pads. And these are only $6.99, which is actually a great price. I know they're small and they don't actually look like they're in great shape, but I've seen these cost a lot more than $6.99 for a little 4-inch container. So that is actually a great price if you can find one that is in good health. Here's a real pretty one. This is a tiarella or foamy bells, and this one is called Gold Zebra. And it looks like it would be short in stature. It's very tiny, 8 inches tall. And look how pretty that is. So this is a great foliage plant, and foamy bells or tiarella will get these bloom spikes in the spring that are really pretty. Now this one doesn't seem to have a picture that shows you what the blooms look like, mostly just the foliage, which is gorgeous on its own. So when it's not in bloom, you still get a lot of visual interest and texture from just the foliage. But this is typically what foam flower or foamy bells, tiarella, this is what the blooms look like, which are really pretty as well. And this variety is Pink Skyrocket, which is another one that they have in stock here. And a gorgeous fern. This is the Autumn Brilliance. Look at the color on this. Now this is the color change that this fern goes through. It is stunning. Let me see if I can find information on it. There it is. Autumn Brilliance Fern. And how big does it get? Now this one looks like it could be pretty large based on its wingspan here. So this one gets to be 24 to 30 inches in height by 18 to 24 inches in width. And it is hardy in zones 5 down to zone 5 or negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Part shade to shade, prized for its foliage. Gorgeous. And of course they have lots of hosta. Here's another fun fall plant. Now this is Hot Lips Turtlehead. So Turtlehead, also known as Chalone, is a really great late summer bloomer that will take you into fall. It likes part sun and a pretty moist soil. I have mine planted in a bed that stays pretty moist and it's been really happy there and gets to be 24 to 48 inches in height, 18 to 30 in width, and it is hardy down to a zone 3, so very hardy, down to negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit. It likes part sun. And it blooms August through September. Now there is a native variety that is white, Galbra I believe it's called, and I've been on the hunt for that for quite some time, but I haven't found it yet. So for now I'll just enjoy the pink one. And this one here on the side is a really cool plant too for late season interest. This is Triceratus, and this one's called Fremosana. Let me show you the tag in case I said that wrong. Sumarai or Samurai is the variety. And it has these really tiny blooms that you almost have to look really close to see the detail on them. Look at that. And it has variegated foliage. So this one is like green, edged in yellow. And here's another one that was on my plant wish list for a while, and I picked some up this spring. It is Bowman's Rue, also known as Galinia trifoliata, and it has these really dainty white blooms that almost look like agara. And let's see, it is hardy in zones 4 through 8, so very hardy, down to negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit, and it gets 24 to 36 inches in height. And it stays a little bit more narrow than that. And it likes sun or part sun, and it blooms late spring through midsummer. So they have some of that here, which this one isn't that easy to find. I actually went to a wholesale nursery in order to be able to locate some of these. And look at this gorgeous Brunnera with these silver leaves. So pretty. So there are lots of options when it comes to shade gardens to add some color just through the use of foliage and texture. So here's an example of a great plant to add. Now this does like a moist but well-draining soil. I had mine planted under some trees. There was some root competition there, so they never quite got enough water and they died on me. So now that I know that, I can plant them in a more appropriate spot and they can thrive. So I plan on adding some next spring, now that I have a little bit more shade in my garden. And another one that is really popular that people really enjoy is the Sun King Aurelia, also known as Golden Japanese Spikenard or Spikenard. And it's just a foliage plant that you grow with the really pretty bright yellow chartreuse foliage. Looks gorgeous planted with some dark foliage. Makes for a really sharp contrast. Some fingerleaf Regerzia. Wow, look how pretty that is. It has really large leaves. Almost looks like the May apple leaves, right? And then it gets these blooms that almost look like astilbe blooms. That is really interesting. Let's see how large this gets. It grows 4 to 6 feet in height and needs 24 to 36 inch spacing. So needs a good amount of room. So this would be a great back of the border plant. And it's hardy in zones 5 through 7 or down to negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Blooms in late spring, and it says it grows well at water's edge or in bog gardens, which is amazing because it is hard to find plants that like kind of wet conditions. That's a cool find. And this time of year you will start seeing these gorgeous clematis chock full with these little white blooms. This is a sweet autumn clematis. Look at all those buds on here. These would look really pretty kind of growing over and along a fence or on an arbor or trellis. Let me take a sniff. I think these are supposed to smell. Yeah, They have a little bit of a smell, similar to, I would say, like a gardenia. They have a floral smell, or maybe even a jasmine. But they have some here. They're already kind of staked, so then you can just plant it wherever you're planning on training it to climb. I currently have two favorite heucheras. The caramel heuchera, which is a really pretty caramel kind of golden foliage, warm shade one. And then this one here, which is the Proven Winners Dolce Silver Gumdrop. Such pretty color on these leaves. Look at that. Now these would look stunning in the front of a container for fall. And I really like the use of perennials in containers, because then you can dig them up when you're done with them in the container and plant them in your landscape. And they bloom. They send up these bloom stalks in the spring, late spring, early summer. You can cut them off again if you just want to grow them for foliage. But it even says fall is fantastic. So these are part of their fall plant collection here. Really pretty. Lots of grasses. And I'm looking for a burgundy bunny grass. And this one is the Hamlin, which I have. It's like a dwarf fountain grass, really pretty. These plumes are the blooms on grasses, and they offer such nice movement and texture in the garden. Really beautiful as we get to the end of summer when they start sending up these plumes, and they transition so nicely into fall. And if you're looking for a trellis to grow a sweet autumn clematis on, they have some great options here. Look at these pretty kind of rusted, aged ones here. They are fully stocked on the evergreen front. Lots of beautiful evergreens and trees. And fall is a perfect time to plant some evergreens for some winter interest in your garden, so that when all of your perennials are dormant and asleep for the winter, you will still have some really beautiful things to look at out in the yard. Now here is a really cool evergreen that I have been kind of thinking about for a couple of years now. It is the Sky Pencil Holly. It has a really nice kind of upright columnar shape. It will fit great in many different gardens, whether you're short on space or if you have a kind of a Zen or modern aesthetic to your garden. These would be a great option. They can deal with sun or part shade. They are deer resistant, and they just have a pretty compact habit, only getting to be about 3 to 4 feet in diameter and about up to 8 feet in height. So really great size shrub. And some beautiful Japanese maples ready to be planted this fall. They are gorgeous. Now these are red varieties, and when it comes to red, the most popular ones that you will usually find are the Bloodgood, the Emperor One, and the Fire Glow. And I actually have 2 Fire Glows in my garden. We're huge fans of Japanese maples. We actually have a collection, so if you're new to my channel, you can check that out if you also enjoy Japanese maples. And this Fire Glow is $3.49. It is a type of Aster palmatum, and you can see it has these large leaves. And the Fire Glow is supposed to be a bit brighter red when the foliage emerges in spring and then again in fall. And then they have these as well, which have really nice form. So a great front of the yard focal landscape tree, a specimen that will really pop against all of the green in the garden with this beautiful red foliage. These here are all Emperor Ones. So they have Fire Glows, Emperor Ones, and let's see if these here are Bloodgoods, because they look very similar. Another Emperor. So lots of Emperor Ones, which are great trees. These are a medium-sized tree, getting about 15 to 20 feet in height and in width. And they like a part sun location. They can handle more sun if they get ample water, and they might crisp up a little, but over time they usually acclimate to their spot. And some beautiful hornbeams. Maureen, if you're watching this, Briggs has hornbeams. I know she's been looking for one of these. Gorgeous. These nice, narrow, beautiful deciduous trees. They have a really nice structure and shape to them. They look so pretty. Planted in a hedge, they really make a focal point and an impact planted that way. And look at this cool Japanese maple. It has a really fine textured leaf. They almost look like fingers, and it is already paid for by someone called George, but not my George, but he also loves Japanese maples. This is a Hub's Red Willow Acer palmatum. Gorgeous. Ooh, here's another weakness of mine. Conifers. I absolutely love conifers. There was just a bunny going through the conifers here. But you can see these beautiful weeping ones that have an S shape or serpentine shape. Those are blue atlas cedars. I actually have a couple of those in my garden. I have 2 of them. They're beautiful. They fill out over time, but because they're trained in the serpentine shape, they stay relatively compact. But you can always prune it to keep it in its shape, but really pretty blue foliage on that evergreen. And then these are gorgeous too. They look like some kind of pendulous type spruce. Let's see what variety they are. This is a spruce weeping gold drift, and it gets to be 12 in height and 10 years. So anytime that you see the size on a conifer or evergreen, that is usually their average size in a 10-year time frame. And then there's a red dawn, I believe, right here. This is a plant that I saw for the first time, or tree, this spring, and it has gorgeous foliage. Look at this. Isn't that gorgeous? Such beautiful, vibrant chartreuse color. Even the needles, they look like they would be an evergreen, but it's a deciduous tree. And they get really large. Someone told me that these are the trees from the dinosaur era. This is a redwood dawn, and it is $1.99 for this one. It's fast pyramidal grower, wet soils and sun. Oh, it likes wet soil. I have a spot that stays pretty wet, and I actually planted a birch there, a heritage birch that I had purchased here at Briggs, because it can also tolerate wet soils. So that is good to know. This is beautiful. And look at this color contrast with that maple in the back there. Stunning. Gorgeous hinokis. Now, hinoki is another one of my favorite evergreens. I have a handful of them in my garden. This golden one is gorgeous. I really love yellow conifers because they just pop so well against all of the green in the garden. Now let's see what this one is called. This is the Hinoki Cypress Golden, and it gets up to 12 feet in height. It has one of these kind of graceful pendulous habits as well, sort of arching branches. Another really beautiful gold spruce. Now I have an oriental golden spruce in my garden as well. I see the triangle tag, so this is an Izeli plant. This is the Skylands oriental spruce. Look how pretty that is. Now the Skylands gets to be 25 feet in height and 15 feet in width, and it likes sun to part shade. So beautiful. So if you've primarily just added perennials to your garden, go ahead and add a fun evergreen or conifer or even a tree this fall. You'll be so happy next spring, or even over the winter if it's a conifer, that you did, because they really add a lot of structure and visual interest to a garden. And another beauty, this is a weeping blue spruce. So it's called the Blues, and it is gorgeous. I have 2 of these in my garden, love them. They do well in sun, and I also have one in part sun, does just as well. And because it is weeping, it will stay more compact than, say, a traditional Colorado blue spruce with a pyramidal shape. So Picea pungens glauca, spruce the Blues. Really pretty. And in order for it to have this really vibrant blue, it definitely needs some sun. So full sun to part sun is how it will do best. Also, if you deal with deer in your garden, I know that I do, and they do not touch my spruces. So evergreens are really slow growing, and so it's always so sad when the deer get to them. So I just thought that I would share with you that they do leave any kind of blue spruce in my garden alone. And some gorgeous Austrian pines. These are so pretty. Look at that. They need a little bit of space, but really beautiful. That's one thing I can caution you with, is to definitely give your conifers and evergreens proper spacing, because they will grow to the full size that it says on the tag and beyond that if they're happy. Look at all the candles on here. So the candles are the tips that you get in spring on your conifers, like the pines. This one, Oregon green Austrian pine. And let's see how big it gets. It likes full sun, and it grows 10 to 12 feet tall and 8 to 10 feet wide. So probably a medium-sized conifer. And it's hardy to zone 5 or negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Even if you just come here to walk around and get inspiration, it's such a nice nursery. Look at that sedum loaded with bees. And then they have some calamenta in the front here, which is another really great plant for late summer, early fall color. And the pollinators love it. Calamenta is part of the Nepeta family or the mint family. They're Verbena bonariensis, which the pollinators also love. It's kind of just floating above the calamenta here. Some hydrangeas. These are panicle type hydrangeas. It looks like a little quickfire that has already taken on its color for the end of summer and early fall. When the temperatures start to drop and it gets a little bit cooler at night is when they start taking on some of this pink hue. And look at this ginormous Amsonia. It looks like a shrub, but that is actually a perennial. Right behind this Verbena bonariensis, this fine leaf plant that you see here, fine textured foliage, this is Amsonia. This is probably the Hubrechtii, and in the fall, this is going to turn the most vibrant golden yellow, very similar to that Sun King Aurelia that you see right beside it. Gorgeous. And it gets loaded with tiny little star-shaped flowers in the spring. So if you have the space to plant one of these, gorgeous. They're usually about 3 by 3 in size, but I think they have several planted here. Really pretty. Some Joe Pye weed and another hydrangea. It looks like a pinky winky. And if you like to do cut flower arrangements, look at this St. John's wort with these berries. Really pretty to cut sprays of this to insert in floral arrangements as we head into fall. Some oak leaf hydrangeas. Now let's see what variety this is. It might be ruby slippers, but this is a great hydrangea. Not only do you get these really large blooms in the summer, but you also get really gorgeous foliage change in the fall. This foliage will go red and look really beautiful. And they're called an oak leaf because their leaves look like oak leaf leaves. So let's see what variety this is. That tag doesn't tell us, but oh, there's another one right here. This is the ruby slippers, which is a really popular variety. It's been around for a bit now. It likes part sun, and it gets to be 3 to 4 feet in height and 4 to 5 feet in width. It needs regular water and hardy to a zone 5 or negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Gorgeous. Lots of hydrangeas. And here's a really beautiful viburnum. This is the brandywine. Look at the color of this foliage as we head into late summer and fall. And it gets berries for the birds. Look at that. Really pretty one. This is a proven winter shrub, and let's see how large they get. So this brandywine viburnum gets to be 5 to 6 feet tall and wide, and it is hardy in zones 5 through 9 or down to negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Look at that. You get these gorgeous blue looking berries with this foliage. So these are going to turn a blue color. Really pretty. And look at this. I just found another wish list plant. This is the Penstemon bear tongue onyx and pearls. So it has this really gorgeous dark foliage and white blooms. Now I have the Midnight Masquerade in my garden, which has a light pink kind of purple bloom with dark foliage, but I'm going to go ahead and pick up one of these to try out as well. Look at this cool plant. It almost looks like a thistle. I don't know what color the bloom would have been, but let's go ahead and take a look at the tag. It's called Rattlesnake Master. Oh, it does look like a type of thistle. The foliage even looks kind of spiky, but kind of like a snake plant, maybe a succulent. My guess is that this can probably take dry soil. Let's take a look. Silvery white prickly flowers from early summer into fall, 3 to 5 feet tall, and 4 through 9, dry to moist, drought tolerant. So I guess it can take dry to moist, so very versatile plant. And it looks like the pollinators like it. Very unique, this one. And right on the side of it is some Montauk daisies, which is another plant that will bloom with daisy flowers towards the end of summer, beginning of fall. It actually blooms closer to fall. This is one that gets pretty tall and can benefit from something called a Chelsea chop. So where you would cut it down and then around or before 4th of July, and then it will start to push out more foliage, and then you will get your blooms, but it will keep the plant shorter instead of it getting really tall and lanky and kind of splitting in the center. It also helps with to cut it down after it's done blooming so that you don't get woodiness, because these can get a little bit woody at the bottom. They like full sun, and they get to be 2 to 3 feet in height, 3 to 4 feet in width, hardy to a zone 5 or negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Showy white daisies from September through October. and anemones. And I have this one in my garden. It is the Honorine Jobert. It is a gorgeous, very dainty white variety. So pretty. They group their perennials like they do their planters and pots by color. So here are perennials with blue flowers, and a wonderful one that I added to my garden last year is this Agastache Blue Fortune. Look at that. This one's still all budded up, and it's going to get to bloom for you in your garden. I have mine planted by Rudbeckia, and they make an absolutely stunning combination. These are sterile, so that means that if you plant one in your garden, it's not going to drop seed and become invasive for you. The Blue Fortune Agastache. So here it is, Blue Fortune, Anise Hyssop, Agastache Blue Fortune. And it is hardy to a zone 6 or down to -10 degrees Fahrenheit, and it likes full sun. It gets to be 3 to 4 feet in height and 2 to 4 feet in width. Very well behaved for me so far, and I'm in season 2 of them. Really long season of color. It's been blooming for me for well over a month, and it's still looking gorgeous. This is a really pretty grass too. I added one of these to my garden last year, and this is the Carly Rose, and it has really pretty pink plumes. Look at that. See the way that's moving in the wind? This is just something that I really love in the garden. I find it so soothing. And some Russian sage, which is a really drought tolerant plant, and it blooms later than, say, Nepidas and some salvia varieties. So if you like this purple spike type flower in your garden, Russian sage might be a good one to add if you have a dry, well draining soil in full sun. Has a nice fragrance too. Another one that's part of the mint family. And right below it, a plant that is part of the onion family, which means that the deer and rabbit stay away from it because they don't like the fragrance, but it doesn't smell to us humans. Really pretty ornamental onion, summer beauty. This is a clumping perennial allium. And this variety here gets to be 18 to 24 inches tall and is hardy in zones 4 through 9. So it's a really pretty light pink color. I actually have 2 varieties of this allium in my garden, but not the summer beauty. I have the Millennium and the Lavender Bubbles that are more purple, and they bloom a couple of weeks apart. That way I can extend my bloom show of the alliums. Another fall bloomer, and this is Aster, and this one is the Novi Beige variety. Showmaker's Pretty Pink. And it gets to be 10 to 12 inches in height and hardy in zones 4 through 8. It says it's great for cutting gardens. So you can cut these stems because they do look like they have some tall stems. Now I prefer asters to mums. Now mums can also be perennial and you can plant them out in your garden. But I find that after a season or two, I had tried it before, they get really kind of large, like a really large clump, take up a little too much real estate, and then they can flop in the middle. So I'm not a huge fan. But I am going to try Aster in my garden this year. I picked one up recently that I'm going to plant somewhere. And a new to me plant, Ironweed Summer Surrender. So it almost looks like the blooms are similar to a Verbena bonariensis, and then the foliage is very similar to an Imsonia. And this is all budded up. Look at that. So it's going to bloom any day now. I'm going to have to look this one up. But let me know in the comments what your thoughts are about ironweed, if this is something that you grow in your garden. Has dark purple flowers from early to mid-fall, grows 48 inches tall, and it's hardy in zones 4 through 9, and it likes dry, average drought tolerant. And they have yet another variety of aster, and that is the Nova Angelea or Angelia Purple Dome. And it's all budded up as well. So it's so fun to visit nurseries at all different times of the season because you can see what they're growing seasonally, and they'll have those available. So then you can plant them in your garden to extend your bloom show all the way from spring when your bulbs start emerging until the fall where your leaves start to turn and fall. And they still have some phlox, which these varieties are really pretty ones. This is the Proven Winners Opening Act Ultra Pink, and it has a really pretty vibrant pink color, almost with a little bit of purple to them. Now, the thing about growing phlox is that you have to give them ample space. If you don't give them enough room, they won't get proper airflow, and then they can succumb to something called powdery mildew. It doesn't usually kill the plant, it just makes it look really unsightly. So to avoid that, just give them proper spacing. And they have this one here, the Opening Act Ultra Pink, and they also have this one that looks like it could be the Pinkadot. Yeah, Opening Act Pinkadot. And this one is very similar to my fashionably early crystal variety, which is a very light white, almost lavender with a pink eye. Very pretty. I will tell you that my fashionably early crystal does get terrible powdery mildew. It could be my fault because it is packed in the bed pretty well with perennials around them, or it could just be that the variety is more susceptible to it. I'm actually looking to add a white variety to my garden, maybe the old-fashioned David, but let me know what your experience is with the David Phlox in the comments if you grow that variety in your garden. And here's a pretty white one. This is a phlox called Luminary Backlight by Proven Winners. And let's see the height on this one. 28 to 30 inches, so middle of the border plant. And hardying zones 3 through 8 are down to negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And it blooms mid to late summer. Very pretty. So this is also another option. If I don't find the David, which I think is exactly the same shade of white with no other color on it, then I can look for the Luminary Backlight. Here's one that's more in bloom. Look at these beautiful pagodas. They're such great size. So pretty. And they have some more anemone, and this one is called the Pocahontas Japanese Windflower, and it looks like a pink variety. That might be roughly. Now these also like moist soil, and they spread by rhizomes. Sometimes they can get a little carried away and spread a bit, especially if they're happy in the growing conditions. But I will tell you that they're very easy to pull out and share with friends if you don't want them where they're growing. But they have a really beautiful late season bloom that I find that they're worth it. They have the most beautiful Makawa Yatsubusa Japanese maple. This is one that has foliage that kind of stacks one on top of the other, and it is really pretty. Look at that. It has a really unique shape. So here's what I'm picking up today. I'm going to get this Onyx and Pearls Penstemon, and this is a large enough one that I think I can divide it in two. But I often will do this. I will just get one perennial and see how it does in my garden, and if I like it, then I can always pick up more. And I decided on one more plant. I'm going to pick up this fingerleaf Rogersia. I just really love how large these leaves are, and they have those really tall panicle looking blooms that almost look like a stilbe. So I have a spot that I think will be perfect for this. It likes kind of a semi-moist soil in part shade. So we're going to go ahead and pick up one of these as well to give them a try in my garden. And look at all of these beautiful grasses right behind the coneflowers. So pretty. So lots of coneflowers too. This is the Cheyenne Spirit. So you get multiple colors on just one plant. Yellows, creams, coral, pinks, and even reds. Sometimes orange as well. Really beautiful coneflower. So thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I will catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please hit the thumbs up button. And please consider subscribing so you don't miss any of my future videos. And we'll see you soon.